Hey, what's up guys, this is Astranox and I'm back with another Epic 7 video. So in this one I want to showcase Mascot Hazel in Wyvern 11. I'm going to be using her with Angelica, Kise and Taranor Guard. So let me just show you my stats on her real quick. It's the same that I had on Aether when I was trying him. Nothing amazing really, like it's just leftover gear that I had. I know it's plus 15 enhanced, but it's nothing crazy. And so 5-star max level and no skill ups. Here are the runes in the skill tree. This is all you really need to increase her healing output in a team where she's the only non-ice elemental hero and using 3 ice elemental heroes. So this is the only one that won't really help you unless you're trying to tank the huge shockwave attack if you fail to break the barrier. So 10 speed, and this increased the healing output of the second skill. I'll talk about her multipliers. I'll show you like how much healing she does. We'll see her in the battle result against Angelica. I'll show the gear of like all my team after the runs, and I'll talk about the mechanics of the Wyvern in stage 11 because it's different from all the previous stages. I've already talked about them in my previous videos, but I want to talk some more about them. So as a healer, Mascot Hazel, she's really good, and she also provides attack buff. And if you're lucky enough to add Rod of Amaryllis or Celestine or even Shimadra's Staff, it will be much easier for you to heal your front hero. Because in Wyvern 11, the Wyvern always attacks the hero in front. Be it like you could have a Knight in there, or you could have a Soul Weaver. If you're not lucky to have Angelica, she does make things much easier because, I mean, she's ice. Her healing is godly on her skill 2, and putting a prophetic candlestick onto her really makes her like a beast. So the Wyvern always attacks 3 times. You can lower the amount of damage that he or she does by applying 3 debuffs. It says that if the caster has 2 or fewer debuffs, greatly increases damage dealt. Attacks the front row first. If the front hero dies, it's gonna attack. Well, it goes from the front to the back as more and more of your team dies. All right, so pay attention to the amount of healing that Mascot Hazel does, and 5,989. Her multiplier is on skill 2, which is on a 2-turn cooldown. It seems to be 15% of the target's max HP, plus something like 15% attack, but it's definitely not the attack part that really scales. It's the 15% target max HP, which Angelica has a ton of. She has 19,000, a bit over 19,000 health. Check this, 19,218. And on skill 2, when the target is below 50%, it's doubling the amount of healing. So it is definitely amazing. Now, if let's say you're using a Knight in front, if you're lucky enough to have Noble Oath, the 5-star artifact, which increases your defense and effect resistance the lower your health goes. It's definitely only the defense increase part that we care about in this fight. Then it's going to lower your stat requirement for Mascot Hazel if you want to have her as your solo healer. Now you will need some really good survival stats on your tank if you're using a tank that has attack down, like an ice tank like Crozet or Basque. When you do apply attack down debuff, the Wyvern, it will stick on the Wyvern for the 3 attacks it will do. Yeah, so if you pay attention during the fight, when I have a debuff, it sticks. If there's 1 turn left, it will stick for all 3 attacks, and then it does get removed. So Mascot Hazel, you can definitely use her in a double Soul Weaver setup. You could have Angelica or Destina in front. Destina has some really good stats, and her healing, her multipliers, I know it's about this is about Hazel, but Destina has some good multipliers. Skill 1 is 7% of the target's max HP. Soul Burn, 35% of the target's max HP, and it heals everyone. And skill 2 is 30% of her own health. And skill 3 is 35% of her own health. 7 speed. Can't get those 8 speed boots. Alright, so first run here. It's definitely like on the lower end. These last few runs that I've done, yeah, I mean, it's like just shy of 30% contribution. But you have to remember that she is bringing attack buff. And not only that, we're comparing her to Angelica, which is the top healer, with Prophetic Candlestick, which lower her skill cooldowns by 1 when she gets attacked. It's 40% chance to happen. The Wyvern attacks you 3 times in a row, so it's very likely that it will happen. And her skill 2 is on a 2-turn cooldown. And the thing that is beautiful about it is that when she heals with it, and she's the only one that lost health, so she's healing herself twice, and it's doubling the healing output at any percentage of her health. That's why it's really good. Let's say you are running, you have Angelica, but she's not quite doing it by herself, because you need some pretty good stats if you want her to survive, if you want her to solo heal. So you can definitely bring Mascot Hazel to help her out and to bring attack buff for your team. I feel like Mascot Hazel is a much better hero than Yuna, in the fact that your runs will be safer because you do have the attack buff and you have someone else that a backup healer. Now the other cool thing is that yes, you're putting Prophetic Candlestick on your Angelica, but then you have the possibility of having another one of these really good artifacts if you have them. Rod of Amaryllis, Celestine, or Shimadra's Staff on your Hazel. I mean, you could have Yuna with Bloodstone to try to heal up, but I mean, it's definitely not going to be as good as Hazel, that's for sure. So yeah, I talked about her multiplier, 15% targets max HP with skill 2, and when the target is below 50% health, it becomes it doubles the output. 30% of the target's max HP, and it's like 30% attack, and the base is yeah, 50% max HP and 15% attack. Now her skill 3 only heals for 12% of the target's max HP plus 30% attack, but I mean, it provides attack buff for your team. Now let's say you want to run Hazel in your comp. Let's say you have Angelica in front, or you have someone else. I don't feel like Hazel can solo heal unless she has Rod or Celestine, because I mean, it's gonna be rough unless you have some really crazy stats on your knight. You're definitely gonna need an Ice Knight, or I mean, you could do it with Maya, Light Maya, Fighter Maya. If you have her, you should build her. You can use her in multiple places in the game, especially in PvP, Arena, and Guild Wars. So definitely a worthy hero to invest in. Crozet you can get for free. Basque, if you didn't get Basque, or if you do have Basque, you can build him. He's really good. He's slow, but he's really good. But Crozet has better base stats and also applies a barrier for free every 2 turns on a target that's below 50% health, aka himself. And yeah, better defense, like 100 defense more, and a bit more health than Basque as well. So that could be the hero that will be tanking for you. But having Hazel solo heal him, I don't have him built. I cannot build every hero and try everything, but I'm trying to like as best as I can to show you different team composition and like review the whole setup. But yeah, like I can talk about the different team setups that you can be running. I'll be doing a guide just for that, so I don't want to get too much off topic here. But yeah, I wanted to talk about the abilities of the Wyvern. Main thing, he attacks a front hero that we know of. I talked about it already. But let's say you're running a comp that will have to survive Dragon's Might because it initially deals damage to everyone on your team and then dispels all their buffs. This deals a bit of damage, but the big damage comes afterward. After attacking, creates a shockwave to deal additional damage. Now that one hits like a truck. And Hazel, she's fire. She will take 30% increased damage. And her survival stats are nothing crazy. Okay, so I've seen numbers like this. So from what I'm seeing, Hazel is healing between like 30% to 65% of Angelica, if you want like a rough comparison. But Angelica just cannot be matched because she's in the front line with Prophetic Candlestick, and she's the only one taking damage and healing herself for double the amount at any percentage of health with that skill too. It's definitely insane. Let's just go real quick here. So Hazel, that unhealable. Wait, that's just normal Hazel, and that's not what I want to see. It's her base stats. Yeah, that health is quite low. It is much. If you want to tank that shockwave attack, if you do fail to break the barrier, I cannot recommend Hazel. She's just gonna die from the damage unless you make her very tanky, and it will require some really good stats, and you will definitely need a knight with Aureus to increase your team survival. But if the rest of your team is ice, it's gonna be fine. It's mostly about like Hazel, which is non-ice, is gonna take 30% increased damage. Let me show you the gear here for my team. Alright, so skill ups first. Kise, Taranor Guard, Angelica, and we know that Hazel doesn't have any skill ups already. And just pause if I go too quick when I show my gear. Now, like during the battle, the other thing is that the Wyvern dispels a buff, on the hero that it attacks. There's a wording there. It's like saying that when it attacks, it removes a debuff, but it's actually removing a buff on the hero that it attacks. And if you have multiple buffs, it will take one out randomly, or you might resist. But you cannot rely on defense buff unless you're using Fighter Maya, which applies defense buff every time she gets attacked. If you skill up her skill 2, every time she gets attacked, she gets defense buff, which is really good. And defense buff increase your defense by 60%. Show the rest of my gear. So if you're running a knight, you might be running Crow, you might be running Tywin, you might be running, I mean, I have a list here. Rose is definitely gonna be good. I'm not sure if I showed the rest of my gear here. But yeah, Rose brings attack buff. She's ice, she has good tanking stats. And she can definitely be your front liner. You could be running Tywin not in the front with Angelica in the front, because it's so good. That thing just makes her like it brings her to a whole another level. And Crow, like, thing is, Tywin, you can make him fast and use him for dropping defense down, and also bringing attack buff and crit rate buff, and this buffs one of your damage dealers randomly, whoever is closest to 100% combat readiness. And yeah, fight to Maya, but you could also use Phyllis, the Dark Knight. She gets 2% defense increase passive every time she gets attacked, and with the Molagoras it's 3%. It stacks 10 times. So this, let's say with Molagoras, let's say it like counters the damage, that the extra damage you will receive because you're not ice. But Phyllis, every 4th attack she applies defense buff for the whole team. The thing is, it's not gonna work because all your buffs get stripped before the big shockwave if you fail to break the barrier. So that's unfortunate. And yeah, every time the Wyvern will attack Phyllis, it will remove one buff randomly. So you could have other buffs like attack, let's say like immunity, barrier will just get consumed by the damage before being dispelled, or maybe it's like your tank's super crazy on survival and it just takes it doesn't even break through the barrier. It might dispel that instead of the defense buff. So there is a usage for that defense buff, but it's gonna be hard to have it stick. So yeah, definitely, like if you have one of the like really good artifacts, Rod, Celestine, or Shimadra's Staff, you can get Shimadra's Staff from the shop here for Powder of Knowledge. If you're running double Soul Weaver, this will definitely help. Definitely help. Like I'm almost considering to buy it if I'm still thinking about it. The thing is, I don't necessarily need it because I can already do Wyvern 11. But if you're like, you just feel like you're so close, you need to, let's say you've got, I don't know, a 50% success rate on auto. What you can do is you can definitely just manual. That's one way to go about it. Or you can just auto and pay attention to the fight. But let's say you want that 100% success rate. This could definitely be the artifact that that brings you to that. Well, it's gonna increase your success rate for sure. Maybe not 100%, but yeah, it's gonna be 30% increase healing. The thing about this item is that it affects every hero on your team. So let's say you're using it on Hazel, it will buff Hazel's healing. It will buff, let's say you have Angelica in front, it's gonna buff Angelica's healing, but also it affects lifesteal sets. So let's say you're only doing Wyvern 10, right? Well, the Wyvern attacks heroes randomly on your team, so you could have lifesteal set on 2 of your damage dealers, you know, so it definitely can be useful for other things in the game. Like there's infinite use for this thing. You can use it in every part of the game. So yeah, and I think that covers it. I just don't want to be to go too in depth. On the next video for Wyvern, I'd like to... so I've got Chloe, I want to test. What I really want to test is this skill. Magic Knell deals 2% of the target's max health and damage. And anyone that damages the boss, well, whoever has Magic Knell, will deal that 2% of the target's health from any of your hero. So what happens is that 2% is actually like pure damage. It's not affected by the defense of the target. So you can be running Chloe on a full ice setup, let's say 4 ice heroes. Chloe could be your only source of damage with that Magic Knell. And you could have a knight in front with 2 Soul Weavers and just Chloe. And the whole damage is going to come from this thing. You could make Chloe, your whole team, super tanky, right? And eventually you will be able to kill the boss because that 2% is going to add up. And I mean, you're probably not going to break the barrier depending on how much speed you've got. But you can actually, you can just survive through those shockwave because you failed to break the barrier. And eventually just chip at the boss's health bit by bit, and then eventually just down the boss and have a tanky team doing it. So yeah, that's something I want to try. I'm not necessarily gonna do it with Chloe as the only damage dealer, but I could definitely test that out. yeah, I'll try to get that to happen actually. And I also have Tywin I want to try out. He's great with Aureus and helps out with the buffing and dropping defense down. And yeah, I want to make a guide on which heroes you could use, like different team compositions for all the roles. So yeah, that's it for this one, guys. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. If you have any issues with the battle, just hit me up in the comment section and I'll try to help you as best as I can. And you guys can help each other out as well. But yeah, just let's have a discussion in the comment section. And that's it for this one, guys. Thanks for watching. I'm Astranox. Like, comment, and subscribe for more. Press the bell icon if you'd like to be notified whenever I release a new video. And I'm out. Peace.